Hey, I'm in.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Smack Talk Live. I'm Coach along with Lone Wolf. And Lone Wolf, not a whole lot this week going on in the sports world. But we'll hop right in there because we are going to try to stick to our hour time frame.
Right.
I mean, I love talking sports, but I think we need to get back to that. So we are a little bit different format tonight, but it'll work. So let's begin just with the World Series, because other than college football and the NFL, is the only thing really going on right now.
Yeah.
The World Series tied 1-1. The Rays were able to come back in game 2 and win 6-4. So, we got half the World Series prediction right. We got
the Rays in there, not the Braves. Yeah.
Not the Braves. The Braves fell apart.
They really did. Yeah. I mean, they were up 3-1, and that series, they should have really been able to seal the deal there,
So, to be honest, in game 1, you're going up against probably the best pitcher in Major League Baseball right now. Yeah. So you expected the Dodgers to win that. Thing is, he's not going to start 4 games. I mean, right. he could, but
that's usually pretty atypical for baseball, especially in the World Series, yeah.
So, I think the Rays overall have a really good shot of winning this series. I hope they do. Because I think, we still have our World Series champion in the field, in the hunt. But it's kind of like March Madness. You just want your final 4 teams right, so you have a shot. So,
and I'd like to see, like you were talking about before, I'd like to see the Rays do it. I think for baseball, it's good. You have the Dodgers there, and you have that LA fan base, so you have a big market team. But if the Rays could pull it off, I think it'll help in broadening, the fan base, keeps that Tampa fan base energized. It's good for baseball all around, I think, if they win,
Right, exactly. I think it's a bigger boost to baseball if the Rays win than the Dodgers win. And to be honest, I just think nationally, people don't care about LA sports teams.
Right.
They just don't. I think, it just, people are like, whatever, we don't care. They don't care
in
about
LA and then obviously in California, probably, sure. But
right.
From a national standpoint, yeah.
So I think they have a better impact for baseball if the Rays are able to pull off the victory there. I mean, you saw the same thing with the NBA with the Lakers winning. Did you'd think the Lakers being in the finals finally since the Kobe era and winning a championship, the ratings would have been through the roof, and they're the worst ratings in NBA playoff history since they began tracking ratings. So it just shows you that, all the other stuff aside, that the national presence of the LA sports scene is not what it was back in the 80s. People don't care anymore just because you're LA. So let's move on. Let's talk about something that we have not talked about yet this year, and probably because there was no reason to. But now we do. The Big Ten is back starting
Yes.
tomorrow night. Um, and it's interesting because watching the college football polls, you had the Big Ten teams not even playing games, moving up in polls.
Right. So, how does that even happen? I mean,
I don't know. They were dropping, but then the Big Ten said, "Oh, we're coming back." AKA, we got sued, and we don't want to go through waste all the money on lawsuits. So fine, we'll play.
right.
I mean, let's be honest. That's what happened. The Big Ten commissioner made a knee jerk reaction to cancel the season without talking to everybody and getting all the information.
Right.
Whether you believe it should be,
It was foolish. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, whether they're right or wrong in our personal feelings on when the season should be played, he didn't do his job and research his decision. He just went and said, "Hey, we need to do this," and the Big Ten presidents agreed with him. So he gets sued, and then they reverse course. The Big Ten commissioner should be fired and replaced. I just think he handled this horribly from the get go. But that's for another discussion.
Right.
Talking a real brief Big Ten preview. You look at it just from a overall conference, before we break down the different divisions,
Yeah.
Ohio State has to be the hands down favorite to win the overall Big Ten championship. Again this year, they return a lot of their players. I personally am not an Ohio State fan,
Right.
but they are probably the best team in the conference. But they
Yeah,
do
and
have
I agree with you. I mean, I'm in the same boat, Coach. I'm not a huge fan. Obviously, we're located in Wisconsin, so we're Wisconsin fans. But from a pure football standpoint, and who's the best in the conference, I would think they would have to be considered the best team in the conference
Now, I
for
will
sure.
say this, though. They have a much tougher road because you have Michigan and Penn State in your conference.
Yeah.
And games like Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers are not going to help you prepare for those bigger games. Um, so, in Michigan State, they're kind of up and down. I'm not sure how good they're going to be this year. I think they'll be middle of the pack.
Right.
So Ohio State should win the East unless Penn State or Michigan can upset them. You go to the West.
I think it's a little bit open, don't you?
I do and I don't. I'm not buying Minnesota having the same type year as they did last year.
Yeah.
I think
Wait a minute. Are you not rowing the boat?
I'm not rowing the boat because here's
Okay.
the thing.
All right. Just checking.
And PJ, everybody can say, well, all these great things about PJ Fleck. Okay.
Yeah.
I had personal experience with the Minnesota program. Had an athlete actually go play 3 years there before transferring his senior year. And PJ Fleck came in before he transferred and basically ridiculed all the old players. And it was not good. Now, winning, people overlook that stuff.
Right.
If they struggle, that stuff's going to come out. I don't know what it's like there now. That was a couple of years ago, in his first years, and maybe he's just trying to establish the this is my program. We're going to do it my way, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, I think they're going to be a solid team. Iowa, I think, is going to be solid. Nebraska will be better. Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue are going to stink. And I think the Badgers are going to win that division. Yes, they lost Jonathan Taylor, but they have a couple of nice young running backs that they're going to start out, kind of a running back by committee until one, takes
Jumps
the reins. And
Yeah.
they did the same thing with Jonathan Taylor was a freshman. It was him and a couple other running backs, and then Taylor just,
He
jumped
dominated.
onto the
Yeah.
team and took the job, and that's who they went with then. I think the Wisconsin defense is going to be phenomenal this year. They return a lot of guys. They get some guys back that were lost for the season last year.
Right.
So I think it's going to be Wisconsin, Ohio State at the end. Again, I'd like to say Wisconsin's going to win the Big Ten championship game. I just can't see it. They're not there. I think they're going in the right direction. They're continuing that dominance of the West, but they still aren't to that
No, I
peak
agree. They're
of
not quite
being the best.
at that level, that elite level. Offensively, I mean, like you said, defensively they'll be really good. Offensively, I'm not sure how good they can be in terms of matching up with an elite team. And if Ohio State plays the way that they generally do, um, they would be an elite team. And I don't know that Wisconsin has the firepower to match up with a team like that. So
Right, exactly. I don't, and that's the issue. Now, there's rumors every year that Jimmy Leonard's going to go take a head job somewhere. To be honest, I don't think Wisconsin's ever going to come out and say this. I think he's been basically told when Paul Chryst decides to either move on or retire, the job's yours. And Leonard's young enough where there's no rush for him to be a head coach. So I think they're setting themselves up for a nice, long dominance of the West. And they just have to figure out a way to compete with Ohio State. And I think their current recruiting classes are a little bit better suited to do that, but only time will tell. So, all right. Moving on to the NFL. Obviously, normally we go through and run down every game from the previous week and then give you a preview of this coming week. I think what we're going to do now, just so we can actually spend more time on previewing instead of going through each of the games from last week, Lone Wolf, just talking about a couple that were shockers. The upsets or the ones that we did not expect to go the way they went.
Sure, we can do that. Yeah.
My first one, obviously, is the Green Bay game. Not surprised that Tampa Bay beat Green Bay. It was the way they did it.
Yeah.
Green Bay looked horrible. And you can say what you want. That loss is solely on Matt LaFleur and the coaching staff. You're coming off a bye week. You obviously did not have that team ready to play that game. But I'm going to echo what Aaron Rodgers said. I think this loss was good for the Packers in the long run.
Yeah.
Because it shows they're not as good as they thought they were.
And I think there's a game, Coach, where sometimes you have to get punched in the mouth and recover from it because, the year the Packers started off really hot in 2011, once they got to the end of the season, they really were, a lot of their weaknesses were being exposed. The gusto was kind of running out. Things were not quite there. And this kind of loss, this kind of game, it level sets you, it resets you to say, okay, Yeah, we smoked those first four teams. Yeah, it was a little bit closer with a couple of those games, but you beat those teams. Now, yeah, this punch in the mouth kind of game, you got to get back up. You got to dust yourself off, and you got to rededicate yourself to practice.
Right. Um, the other game that kind of shocked me, um, Denver over New England.
Yeah,
I did not see that coming, Lone Wolf. And then Atlanta, I'm gonna say manhandling Minnesota. It
yeah.
was 40-23, but the game wasn't even that close.
Yeah, it was kind of if you're a Vikings fan and you see that and you watch that game, I mean, it was embarrassing. I mean, to me, it was embarrassing. And I mean, I look at it and the one game the Vikings play where you think they kind of right the ship, and then you turn around and you have this abysmal showing. Kirk Cousins looked like the worst quarterback in the league in that game. And I
Yeah.
know he's not, but I'm just saying he looked awful. Your offense looked terrible. It was a bad, bad showing all the way around, and your defense got completely and utterly torched in that game.
Yeah, and I have a few, some comments about the Vikings for the are they do they play this week or are they on bye? Because if they're on bye, then I'm going to mention it now.
Let's see if I
They're
think
on
they're
bye.
on bye
So
this week. Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to bring this up now. Minnesota's in. They have given up on their season. And the reason I say this, they traded. You're gonna have to tell me to pronounce the name. The end they got from Jacksonville.
Oh, Yanni Ngawe, I
Yep,
think.
they traded him to the Baltimore
Yannick
Ravens
Ngawe.
today. They are done. They're throwing in the towel. Um,
Yeah. And
you
if we
you don't.
mispronounced your name, we apologize.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah.
That's why I said I wasn't even going to try it.
Right. Right. But
You
and that's a really telling point, and I'm glad you brought that up, coach, because they specifically get him in the offseason from Jacksonville. He comes there, and then now what? It's week 7, week 6, and you're getting rid of him week 7 now. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, between week 6 and 7, and you're letting him walk, and your defense isn't getting any better if you do
right.
that. I mean, what are
And
you
they
doing?
traded and they traded him for draft picks. I didn't read the article. I just saw the headline and immediately I was like, they're done. The
Yeah.
Minnesota's cashing it in, the front office is cashing it in, and they're trying to get draft picks, clear cap space. They're gonna have a new coach next year. This is
Right.
a done deal. This is a done deal, Minnesota. And if you're a Viking fan, I'm sorry. This trade
It's a signal. Yeah.
is telling you what the front office is thinking.
Right.
Period. And you can disagree with me, but I will be utterly shocked if Mike Zimmer is the head coach of the Vikings next year, which good for him. They treat him like crap there. And he'll have another head coaching job.
Right.
If he wants one next year, he'll have one. And he'll
Well,
do a
and this
darn good
year
job.
and this year really isn't on him. I mean,
Right.
obviously as a coach, there's still some decisions that he's
Their
made that you can
roster
question.
their roster is
But
torn apart.
that's what I mean. Yeah, the roster it's just so bad. Everything that they did, they destroyed the defense that he built. They
Right.
let it fall apart.
So yeah, I don't put any of this
Yeah.
on Zimmer. Now we talked about the decision on the 4th and 1 against
Right.
Seattle,
That's what I
blah blah
mean. There's
blah.
stuff like
But
that, but
but
yeah.
guess what? We're all if you're a coach, you're gonna have to make those decisions, and if it works out, nobody's gonna question you, and if it doesn't work out like that one is, we're all gonna question you. That's
Right.
as a coach, you kind of deal with it and move on.
Yeah.
But anything else from week 6 that stood out with you, Lone Wolf, that you want to talk about?
I mean, there were some games where we had maybe a few surprises. Um, Rivers played a lot better, and the Colts won that game against the Bengals. Some people were criticizing. Speaking of coach being criticized, Ron Rivera got criticized for a decision he made at the end of that Washington Giants game, but honestly, both of them are so bad. Who cares? I mean, he's going for it. What are you criticizing him for?
You're one of the worst teams in the league. Why are you
Yeah, go for it.
criticizing the coach at that time?
No,
You're
go
not
for
very
it.
good.
Go for
So
two.
who
Who
cares?
cares? I mean, really. Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of shocked by the Pittsburgh score. It just shows Cleveland is not as good as everybody as their record was. So
Right, they're not as good, and Baker Mayfield is not that good. People.
nope.
Spoiler alert: we've been saying it, but it's true.
Exactly. Oh, all right. Moving on now to this week in the NFL, week 7. The game going on right now could have division championship implications for both teams.
Absolutely.
I just read an article that it is possible, highly unlikely, but possible, that the NFC East champion could finish with a 4-12 record.
Oh. 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 My God.
Like I said, it's highly unlikely.
It's highly unlikely, but mathematically, it's still possible. Doesn't that make you physically ill when you?
It does, because there's going to be one or two good teams left out of the playoffs for the NFC East champion, or I'm going to call it the NFC East chump, because all these teams are horrible. I mean, right now, the Eagles lead the Giants,
right,
10-7 in the third quarter. 10-7. That's it. I'm sorry, Philadelphia.
It's close.
If you want to be taken seriously, you have to blow the Giants out of the water. Now, I'll give kudos to Judge, who I've been highly critical of. You're keeping the Giants, and they haven't been really blown out this year.
They did get destroyed, I think, by San Francisco.
Right, one game.
But otherwise, they haven't been. Yeah, I mean, they barely lost to the Bears. They almost won that game.
Yeah,
super close against other teams. And they just got their first victory against Washington. So yeah.
So kudos to him. I mean,
they're still bad, but at least they're playing.
And I don't know what just happened here, Lone Wolf, but the Giants now are second and goal from the Philadelphia 8. Daniel Jones just rushed for an 80 yards.
Oh, wow. Holy crap.
Wow, Philadelphia. I mean, if the Giants win this game and Dallas loses,
yeah, I mean, then
they're in first place,
right?
Oh my God, this is sad.
It's insane.
So sad. Anyways, we'll talk more about the NFC East here when we get to these other games. So that is tonight's Thursday night matchup, live on Fox. If you really are thrilled with the NFC East,
but it's a competitive game,
right? So, I'm sure it's an entertaining game, but I'm sure it's just bad football.
Oh, sure.
So, yeah. If you are, especially for me, and I've told you this, I don't watch a lot of games because the NFL is just sloppy, bad football. It's just not good. Moving on to Sunday. First game, Detroit at Atlanta. This is actually an intriguing game. Detroit,
very much so.
Coming off the win at Jacksonville, Atlanta.
Coming off the win against Minnesota.
Yeah, come off a big win against Minnesota. I did like Atlanta. I thought Atlanta's defense played much better against Minnesota. I was concerned in the third quarter when Minnesota had the big drive and scored. I was like, uh-oh, here we go.
Right, here we go again.
They're going to collapse again, but they didn't. I'm gonna give the edge to Atlanta in this because of all the trade rumors now around Matt Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
The rumors are that Dallas might be interested. Um, to be honest, Detroit, if anybody's listening, that's not the team you want to trade with. Jerry Jones is not going to give you what Stafford is worth. He's going to say that's what he's worth. You can get better deals from other teams for him. Guaranteed.
Right.
Guaranteed. I wouldn't touch anything Dallas is willing to give me with a 10-foot pole unless it's like 6 first-round draft picks,
Which they'll never do.
which
So
they'll never do. Jerry Jones would try to get Stafford probably for a second and a fourth.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, he might be aging. He is still worth a first and a third round draft pick in my mind. He is that good. He just
Yeah, and
hasn't had enough.
you put him in that offense and you put him with those receivers and that team will be humming along again offensively just
Oh,
like it was.
but you going with Cheeseburger as your head coach.
Well, I mean, you are, but that team was scoring points and moving the football.
I'm just
But yeah,
saying.
in
It,
crucial spots they'll make bad calls because that's what
I
people
mean,
do.
it
But
would. I got some stuff on Dallas that we'll talk about when we get
okay,
down
all
there.
right.
So
All right.
I
Yeah,
don't want to
so
spoil what I have to say about Cheeseburger.
all right. So,
But
I mean, I tend to agree with you here on this particular game. You know, I think the Lions looked good because they were playing Jacksonville, and Jacksonville is just, you know, I know I picked them last week. I thought maybe they'd get up for this game. It's a home game. They didn't, you know, and they're just not any good. Their defense is bad. Gardner Minshew is overmatched, and the team is just really terrible. So I think the Falcons maybe a little bit re-energized. They'll win this one.
all right, Cleveland at Cincinnati. Um, you know, on paper, this is Cleveland all day. I do think Cincinnati is playing okay football, but I think Cleveland comes out and plays much better, trying to get that horrible taste of the defeat by the Steelers out of their mouth. They come out and they put it to Cincinnati and win easily this weekend.
Hey, the thing that bugged me about the Bengals is defensively they kind of fell apart against the Colts, and not that the Colts are bad, obviously, but you know, if you're a team that wants to take that next step, you know, and the Bengals are not that good, don't get me wrong, but you can't allow those types of collapses on defense. So I'm I think this is going to be a close game. Actually, I just not sold on the Browns, and I wonder if they're even going to bounce back that much. I mean, I personally think this is going to be more of a rivalry game, and it's going to be like a 3 point game, really tight. I think the Browns will still win, but it's going to be a tight game.
All right. Pittsburgh at Tennessee. If they were doing flex scheduling, I'm sure this would be one of the flex schedule games because this is one heck of a week 7 matchup. You probably have two out of the top three teams in the conference playing here.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I mean, Pittsburgh just demolished Cleveland at every phase of the game. But at the same time, Tennessee's defense struggled last week, but their offense came alive. They
Exploded.
they can win in so many different ways right now. Um, this is a tough one, but
Yeah, it really is.
I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh at Tennessee in overtime. I think this is gonna go extra, um, but I think the experience and the play at quarterback with Roethlisberger over Tannehill is the difference here. Like Tannehill, I think he's playing great, but Big Ben just has that experience in these more pressure packed games than Tannehill right now.
You know, I've been hemming and hawing on this one ever since I was looking at the schedule and wondering which way I was going to go. I think I'm going to go the opposite direction. I think something came alive in the team, and I realized that they're playing the Texans, but Derrick Henry just exploded in that game. Granted, the Steelers' defense is way better. I think you're right. The Titans have just found a way to win games, and they've been some of them been ugly. I mean, they beat Minnesota. It
Mm-hmm.
was horrible, horribly ugly game, but they managed to kick the field goal at the end and win the game. I think they're going to do the same thing here. I agree that this is probably going to be a super close game and may even go into overtime, but I think the Titans will edge the Steelers and win that game.
All righty. Carolina at New Orleans. Um, if you told me that I'd be kind of split in my mind on this game at this juncture of the season, at the beginning of the year, I'd have laughed at you. Um, I'm not
This has huge
sure.
playoff implications.
Yeah, I mean this has huge implications for that division. Um, I think a lot's going to hinge on right now. Michael Thomas is yet still iffy on whether he's going to play.
Yeah.
But New Orleans still has Kamara. I think they'll pull off a victory. It's at home. Great, it's a great story that Carolina's playing as well as they are. But I think they are going to start to come back down to reality just a little bit and lose a few in a row here. So I think New Orleans beats Carolina this coming Sunday.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the Panthers had a nice run of it there. Teddy Bridgewater was playing great. He didn't look particularly great against the Bears overall, I didn't think. And this Saints team is still struggling defensively, but with their offensive firepower, I think it's going to be just a little too much for Carolina, and the Saints will come away with the win.
Yeah, it's oh. All right. Next game. This one should not take long. Buffalo at New York. Bills going away. I did Lone Wolf. Just if you're wondering, because everybody, my birthday is coming up here. I have something on my birthday wish list here, Lone Wolf.
Okay.
It's on Amazon. It is a Fire Adam Gase T-shirt.
That's awesome.
I want it. I've gone off on this guy every week, and I'm going to go off on him again.
Yep.
You just got shut out. You're an NFL team. You have one of the most putrid offenses that I can remember, and you're supposed to be an offensive genius.
Right.
You've played 6 games. How many points do you think they've scored without looking at it, Lone Wolf?
Okay, all right. I was just gonna say I was gonna look.
Don't look.
I'll say 45.
Oh, gotta give them a little more credit than that.
Okay, all right, 57.
Oh, even more than that.
Oh, wow.
75.
Okay, well, 75. Okay, all right.
You're scoring just over 10 points a game.
Yeah, that's pretty respectable.
And you're allowing over 30.
Oh my God. This team is so bad. So I was curious, right? Because I didn't watch this game. It gives highlights for every game. So I'm looking on the app on my phone. I'm like, oh, look at the highlights and see what they are. I mean, there were no highlights. It was an atrocious game. There's a couple of Dolphins touchdowns. You're like, okay, great, but the highlights for the Jets were like,
a 2-yard run,
Flacco, and it was like a 7-yard run or something. I'm like, where are the highlights? Are these the highlights for this game? Is this like somebody? They couldn't put anything else in there. The footage was so terrible. They're like, okay, they got a positive play, just put it in there.
Lone Wolf. The New York Jets would not finish 500 in the Big Ten football conference. I'm serious. I'm
I
not
know,
even
it's so bad.
joking.
Yeah,
Who are
yeah,
you going to beat? You think this team can beat Ohio State,
yeah. I don't know.
Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin? Well, there's 4 games right there.
Right there. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. They're awful.
you might be able to beat Indiana
Yeah, good for you.
or Rutgers.
And honestly, and this is the best medicine for the Bills because the Bills have
Right.
played the class of the AFC. Now they played the absolute sludge of the AFC. The Bills are going to go off in this game.
Yeah,
It's not even going to be a contest.
I agree.
It's not
I
even going to
think
be close.
it's going to be 40
45
something.
to 7. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be terrible.
Oh, if I'm Buffalo, I might let them score some points just so the Jets think, hey, Adam Gase got this thing turned around. Because if you're in the New York Jets division, you don't want Adam Gase fired.
No,
You want him to get a contract extension.
you want him to stay there.
I mean, seriously.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, again, I'm going off on Adam Gase. This is a weekly thing.
It
And,
is.
and we haven't even talked about the hot seat yet.
No, not yet. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Oh yeah. So
All
yeah,
right.
no. Easy call. So then we'll go to the next game here.
All right. Dallas at Washington. On paper, this looks like if you look at record, should be a pretty close game. I don't think it's going to be. I think, Andy Dalton plays much better. I don't think Washington's defense is as good as Arizona's, and I believe Dallas comes away with the victory on this one.
Yeah, and I agree. The Cowboys should win this game. The problem I have with Washington is, the quarterback situation. They don't
Yeah.
know what they're going to do. They got Kyle Allen and they have Dwayne Haskins. Like, well, who are we going to play? And he's not my guy. And blah blah blah. And that paralyzes the team and it makes it just a bad situation. So the Cowboys have it much more figured out at quarterback, and they're a better offensive team. So they'll win this game.
All right. Oh, we're gonna skip over the Pack game. That's always our last game. Tampa Bay at Las Vegas. Interesting game. This game has been postponed. And they moved it because the Raiders have had a series of initial positive COVID tests. If they do play the game this week, I am going to go with Tampa Bay. I think that the win versus Green Bay kind of woke them up. And now I think they're going to go on a little bit of a run here.
Right, and I agree. I think they weren't quite there, and they were kind of hit or miss on offense, defense, which one was playing better from week to week. That was a much more complete game for them against Green Bay. And I do like the Raiders and what they've been doing and where they stand, but I think Tampa's going to come in and take care of business on this one too.
All right, Kansas City at Denver. I'm sorry, Denver, you're not going to pull off the upset 2 weeks in a row. Kansas City rolls at Denver, and they get back on track.
Yeah, I think it's fairly a no-brainer. There's no offensive firepower in Denver to compete with what the Chiefs have, so Chiefs win.
San Francisco at New England. Interesting game. San Francisco was able to upset the Rams last week. I still don't think they're as good as people think they are. I'm going to take New England just because they are at home over the 49ers.
Yeah, and I'll go a step further. I said that the 49ers weren't making the playoffs last week, and I was very definitive about that. They played a good game against the Rams and maybe proved me wrong a little bit, but I'll say this. Jimmy G goes against his old coach, and Belichick, they had a whole clunker with Denver. They just looked bad. And defensively, they kind of, held them to the field goals and what have you. But still, this is where Belichick will step in. They will have a good game plan. I don't think Jimmy G is going to look that good against this team. They'll be ready for him. It's I don't think the 49ers are going to do very well offensively. I think Belichick's got a plan, so the Patriots win.
Jacksonville at the Chargers. I'm going with Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Really not much too much to say. Jacksonville, they are in total sell-off mode, dumpster fire mode. And we'll talk um, about their coaching front office situation on the hot seat. So,
Yeah. This is the kind of game the Chargers needed to get themselves back on track after that overtime loss to the Saints. I think they win this game pretty handily, actually.
yeah,
They're
I
just
don't
way
think
better,
so.
yeah, defensively. So,
All
yep.
right, Seattle at Arizona. This is going to be, I think, a good game. But you have Seattle coming off a bye. Russell's had a week to rest. Um, I just think Seattle's offense is just Russell Wilson's playing at a different level than anybody in the NFC at quarterback, even better than Rodgers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Seattle wins comfortably. I'm not going to say easily, comfortably wins. I think it'll be close, and then in the fourth quarter they'll kind of put it away, and Seattle will beat Arizona on Sunday night.
Can we just give Russell Wilson the MVP right now, or do we have to wait until the end of the year?
Well, unfortunately, we do have to wait because
Yeah,
he could
he could fall apart, but I
fall
mean,
apart. Yeah,
last year I was giving love to this guy and what he was doing because he's been consistently good. Scratch that. He's been consistently great year in and year out. This year, he is playing at a much, I would say, even just he's taken it up a notch even from where he was last year, and he had a really really great year last year. So yeah, I think the difference is him in a game where the Cardinals can put up some resistance, but they don't have Chandler Jones for the season now. That makes a huge difference. I loved his game, so I think Seattle goes in and they win this game. Um, yeah, by 7 or 10, somewhere in there.
all right. And then the Monday night matchup: Chicago at Los Angeles. Um, you know, we talked about this at the beginning of the year. This would be a stinker. Now we look at this. This is a really big game
It is.
um, for both teams. Um, Chicago, yeah, they beat Carolina, but wasn't really an impressive win. Carolina had opportunities to win that game. They didn't play particularly well, I don't think. Um, but I think if Carolina has McCaffrey in that game, um, they
It's a
they
total different
they
game. Yeah.
win. Um, it's in LA. You know what? I'm gonna go close game, but I'm gonna take the Rams over the Bears. The It's eventually gonna come. The Bears are gonna come down to reality here. You are at about your third, fourth string running back. Your quarterback position is still unclear, even though you're playing Foles. Their defense is good, and that's what's keeping them winning right now. But
Right.
eventually, they're going to play. They really haven't played a really superiorly better offensive team. Uh,
No, they haven't.
but I think the Rams are a much better offensive team, and I think they will have enough to score to put the Bears in a position where they have to score 30 plus points. And I don't think the
Right.
Bears can do it. I'm going to take the Rams over the Bears on Monday night.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, a lot of people hadn't been giving any love or respect to the Bears, and I think that the fans in Chicago are probably sick of hearing it because they're 5-1 and wins matter, and they do, and I'm not taking that away from Chicago. But yes, I think that their defense has been good, but not great, and it was good enough to be able to help them get those victories. The offense is going to face a Rams defense that just didn't play its best game against San Francisco. The Aaron Donald will be out for a little bit more of a revenge, whatever you want to call it. He'll look to avenge himself from how he played. The Rams will get this one, and it'll have some back to reality for Chicago in terms of flying sky high at 5-1. They'll come back down in this game.
All right. And finally, the Packers at the Texans. Offensively, the Texans showed they can score points. And Green Bay, they gave up 38 against Tampa Bay, but one was a pick six, one was returned inside the 5.
Right. I don't put those on the defense.
Right. I can't put those on the defense. I think their defense is better than the 38 points. I think the loss refocuses Green Bay. I think they go into Houston, they play solid, they win by 10. I think it'll be a close game. I think Houston's a little more focused now without Bill O'Brien there, but they just don't have enough talent on that roster to win right now.
Yeah, I think that loss by to Tampa, it energizes Green Bay. Like I said, you get punched in the mouth like that. A good team will bounce back. I think the practices will be grueling and awful, as they should be after that, because LaFleur said he didn't think they had good practices. Well, the practices will be a heck of a lot better this week going into this game. The Packers go into this one, and defensively, Houston just doesn't have enough to match up with the offense that will play back to its level of a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
The Packers win. Yeah.
And I agree. All right. So there you have it, everybody. Those are our Week 7 picks in the NFL. And this is going to be perfect timing, Lone Wolf. We got about 10 minutes here to talk about our hot seat.
Yeah.
Coaches that have maybe cooled down the fire on themselves this last week. Ones that has got a little hotter, and the ones that have totally lit themselves on fire and should just be able to run off the cliff, like the king in Lord of the Rings, where he runs off.
Right. He's Denethor on fire, and he just dives right off the side. Yep.
So there are some coaches I think that did that this week. Just to be honest.
Absolutely.
First off, Matt Patricia. To be honest, I think he cooled his seat a little bit. I'm not a fan of his, but winning matters. Winning matters.
Absolutely, it does.
And I don't care if you're beating Jacksonville or beating Kansas City. When you are a team like the Detroit Lions, you need to win. They're sitting at 2-3. Now, are they going to make the playoffs? No. But if they can somehow win this week.
Yeah, they're sitting at 500,
They're sitting at 500. I mean, if Matt Patricia finishes round like 7-9, 8-8, he's not going to get fired.
Right.
So I think he cooled his seat this week. I think he's the only.
But if Stafford gets traded, then that team is done with him, and they're moving on next. This season,
right?
Season, what you want to say? Yeah.
Yeah. If there's a personnel move, I mean, that kind of changes the dynamics there. That just tells us right there that Detroit's in a total rebuild mode, not trying to build around Stafford anymore.
Right.
To be honest, though, you're sitting at 2-3, and you still play Minnesota. You still play some teams you probably can beat. I don't think Detroit's going to pull the trigger on Stafford unless he comes to them and says, I want to be traded.
Right, yes, which we both think he should. But
he should. He's too much of a nice guy. I don't think he will. Um, it's unfortunate for him, but if I was his agent, I'd be like, let me get you out of here. But
Yeah, let's get to a competitive team. Yeah.
other than that, I don't think any other coach cooled their seat this week, Lone Wolf. Can you think of anybody that might
I
have cooled their seat?
I don't think so. I mean, what I will say though is tonight's game to me will make a difference in how hot the seat is for Doug Peterson. Because if they lose this game to the Giants, the Eagles are 1-5-1, and yes, they're still in the East, so it's possible for them to compete for the division. But we both talked about Philadelphia is an unforgiving place, and if he loses this one, I think the hot seat there, the warm seat, gets hot for Doug
Oh,
Peterson.
absolutely. I think if they end up losing this game, it goes from just wow, this is getting like a seat warmer hot to there's
Right.
somebody holding a lighter underneath that seat, ready to light that thing on fire. Right
Right.
now, they are trailing the Giants 14-10
Yep.
with about 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The Giants have the ball, so yeah, again, you can't if you're coaching in Philadelphia, you can't go off of I won the Super Bowl. They
No.
forgot about that.
Right.
It's done
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. They've
Uh,
they've already moved on. I think they moved on maybe a couple of days or a week later. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So yeah, his seat is definitely getting hotter. And especially if they lose. Um, just look, I'm going scrolling through, just making sure I didn't miss anybody. Doug Marone in Jacksonville, his seat um, is engulfed in flames. He's not running off the cliff yet, but
No, not yet.
that seat is engulfed in flames, and he should be running off the cliff. They're bad.
Yeah.
They're
They're
bad.
just bad, and I laugh, but we talked about this last year. We kind of figured they were going to be bad, and we kind of thought that it was time for a change. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really quite sure what Jacksonville is thinking or doing, which is part of their problem as it is anyway. But you brought him back, and obviously it hasn't made much of a difference this year. You're just terrible. You're 1-5. So yeah, he's definitely his seat is very, very, very arsonist hot.
The other seat that was, I'm just gonna say it has flames starting. We talked about it earlier, and I think it's almost a blessing for him at this point. Is Mike Zimmer? They're
Right.
1-5, and I don't think things are going to get better. They have their bye week this week, but then they have to go to Green Bay versus the Lions versus the Bears versus the Cowboys, Panthers, Jaguars. I mean, there's some winnable games there, but you now have, um, Daniel Hunter is out for the year for their defense, so
Right.
they're a mess. Um, yeah, and I think Mike Zimmer's seat is lit. Um, Unless he can salvage this and get to about 7-9, and he wants to stay, he will not be back with Minnesota next year.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think he's one of those guys that this, even though they're 1-5, it wasn't one of those. Oh, the seat's really hot, and even when he was like say 1-3 or 4, yeah, now it's getting warm because of how bad they are. But um, it's not quite at the level of some of the other people who are in that same position record wise. But I agree. I think this is probably his last year in Minnesota. And I agree too. Also, good for him. He'll land somewhere else, and I think he'll be in a good spot. So
All right. Obviously, no change with Lynn in Los Angeles for the Chargers. They didn't play. We said that his seat's probably a little warm right now because there was chatter of him not even being back this year. They need to win some games. They showed some improvement with Herbert at quarterback, but they're going to need to win some games if Lynn wants to be back next year.
Right.
Um, Other than that, there are two other coaches that we need to talk about. The one I'm just going to say, he needs to run off the cliff. And I've already talked about him. Adam Gase. Light yourself. He is fully inflamed. He should be running and screaming off the cliff, um, and be done with this thing. I mean, I don't know how bad things need to get before somebody looks at this and says,
What are
"What
we
are
doing?
you doing?"
Yeah. This is you know what? It's sad because to me, if you're on the hot seat in this situation, it should be like an active volcano with how hot it
Yeah,
is. But it doesn't feel that way, and that's
right.
the
That
sad part.
I
That's the
totally
sad part
agree.
about this team. Why are they not doing that? I feel for the Jets fans. You know, you are being tortured right now with having to watch this team and this organization who can't seem to pull the trigger and just get him out of town once and for all. Be done with it. Move on. You know, come on now. I don't
I
get it.
agree.
I don't get it.
I don't understand. Um, what's going on here.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss. I'm at a total loss on what is going on. Um,
Yeah. He should be out the door. I just don't. Yeah.
in New York, I just I don't get it. I don't get why they haven't pulled the trigger. Like I said, he must have dirt on somebody, um, because this is one of the more putrid teams I have seen in a long, long time. Um, you I think this is his third year, I believe. Uh,
I think so. Yeah.
so let's just take a look back. Go back to 2018, his first year. His first year, 1, 2, 3. They were 4-12. Last year, they won that many games last year? They won seven
What?
games last year almost?
7-9. Yeah. I
Holy
guess.
fuck.
Yeah.
How the heck did they do that?
Yeah.
Whew.
But you got to think about it, right? So they're four
I,
and 12. They're 7-9. I'm not impressed. They're not any good. They weren't any good. Yes, they won 7 games, but we both said the culture was bad, and it had been bad, and I don't think anything had really changed from that. And maybe ownership will be like, oh well, look, it's so much better. He was 7-9, but it was going in the right direction, and no, it really hasn't been. Um, he just needs to go.
yeah,
Bottom line.
he needs to go. All right. The last coach on my list that his seat is it's percolating. It is like a one of those old coffee pots, Lone Wolf, where you hear it bubbling. You know,
Right.
people are like, "What are you talking about?" There used to be these coffee pots where you'd see the water boiling, you knew the water was hot enough to make your coffee.
I'm guessing some of our listeners will know what you're talking about.
So that's what this seat is doing right now,
Yeah.
and that is Mike McCarthy cheeseburger with the Dallas Cowboys. You're 2-4. I don't care that you lost Dak Prescott. You still have amazing offensive talent, and it's not like you're trotting out a rookie quarterback that's never played before. You have a Pro Bowl quarterback, a former Pro Bowl quarterback playing for you right now.
Right.
There's no reason you should have lost this last game.
And not like that either.
Right. You got just smoked.
Yeah.
So I think, and I'm telling you this right now, if Dallas does not make the playoffs this year, I'm gonna be the first one to say it. Mike McCarthy will be fired after 1 year if they do not make the playoffs this year. I'm
Yeah,
saying
I don't. You know what? This is smack talk. That's the kind of stuff we say, right? I mean, you
that's
make
right.
bold predictions. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm close. I think what will do McCarthy in is what helped to do him in Green Bay, and is that the defense is horrible, and Mike Nolan, okay, it's not working right now. So good defensive coordinator or not, been around the league a long time or not, your defense is just atrocious. So either
But
you
didn't
fix it,
you?
which you haven't
But you
done that.
didn't hear how they're fixing their defense, Lone Wolf.
Oh boy.
They're moving Mike Nolan from the press box to the sideline. That's
Oh
gonna fix
yes,
the
that
defense.
will fix it. Yes. Yep.
Brilliant, cheeseburger. Brilliant.
That's just a great maneuver because he gets a better view of the field that way. He'll be right down there in the trenches. Yep. Okay, so when that doesn't work, because it won't, then you have to fire the guy and promote somebody else to defensive coordinator. I mean, this happens in the middle of seasons. It's not unusual for a coordinator to get fired.
But
When your defense is that
I
bad,
agree. I think Mike Nolan's gonna be fired. And
yeah.
it's not gonna be Mike McCarthy's call. See, in
No,
Green
this will
Bay,
be Jerry Jones.
yeah, in Green Bay, Mike McCarthy said, "No, I'm not firing Dom Capers,"
Right.
until he was told, "Well, it's either you and Capers or just Capers." And so then he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, Don, you're out because I'm not losing my job
Right.
because of you." Jerry Jones isn't going to do that. He's not going to go ask Mike McCarthy,
No,
"Hey,
he's just gonna say this is done.
yeah." He's just going to be like, "No." Mike McCarthy's going to come in one day and and Mike Nolan's not going to be there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
Eh,
Um,
Yeah. And then
so
I think that needs to happen. I think that sorry to say, but their defense is at a point where they need to have a fresh voice, and they need to change this because it's just not working. And I know personnel wise they aren't great, but you can't hand me that. Okay, I mean, yes, some teams don't have the best personnel, but there are things you can do as a coach to make a difference, and make that defense work. Because the Cowboys, they don't need a stellar defense. If their defense played half as half as good as it as the offense, they'd be in a better spot. And it just has to elevate itself to the point where they're not just giving up 330 yards rushing against Cleveland. They're not getting completely blown out in games where they're getting run all over or passed all over. They just need to be a little bit better, and the offense would have taken care of the rest. Now, I know there's some problems there. It's not Dak, but yeah, you have Andy Dalton. You planned for something like this with having a veteran QB under center. Not as good, but still should be pretty decent.
exactly. So, um, yeah, it's
That's a little bit. I agree. It's percolating a little bit. Yeah, I can live with that. Yeah.
so yeah. I'm just kind of looking at an article here from New Jersey saying that the Jets will not be firing Adam Gase because they want to basically make him pay for constructing such a horrible team, and they want him to suffer basically. How ridiculous, if that's the real thing that they're doing, how ridiculous is that, Lone Wolf?
I mean, this is a game. This is a sport as all sports, but you're wanting to put a product out on the field for your fans because they support the team, they buy the jerseys, they go to the games most years, they watch the games, whatever. they're supporting you, and they're supporting you to do that. If that were actually true, how could you even be a fan anymore if that were actually the case?
Right. And I
It
don't
just,
know if it's an
I know.
opinion
I mean,
article,
yeah, yeah.
but holy
It's still
smokes,
sickening to think about.
if that is the case, Lone Wolf, oh, that is not good.
No.
And how about this? I wish I could be horrible at my job and make this much money. Adam Gase is getting paid $2 million a year to do what he's doing right now.
I mean, I'll make a deal with the Jets. If you give me $500,000 a year, I'll go out and I'll do basically the same thing.
Right.
If you want, I mean, it might even be
Exactly.
a little better, even though I have no NFL coaching experience whatsoever.
Give
Just
give
saying.
me give me 250,000 a year. I'll at least win you 2 games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
crying
mean,
out
you're a
loud.
football coach, so I mean, you could at least go out there and you know
I can
motivate them
fumble
a
my
little bit
way to
more.
2 wins. Frustrating.
Oh,
Frustrating. All
it
right.
is.
One last thing I want to get your thoughts on here before you go is your team making some
Yes, I wanted
headlines.
to talk about this.
Going with Tua as their starting quarterback. What are your thoughts? The Dolphins are sitting at 3-3, a game out of first, and they're making a quarterback change.
I I am blindsided by this move. I did not think that this was going to happen. Ryan Fitzpatrick, in the past, he's had some issues where, he'll have a clunker of a game. He'll throw a bunch of picks, whatever. He just has a bad game. It was working. This year, it was working. Everything was coming together. They're 3-3. They're in good shape. Brian, what are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? You are my guy, and what are you doing? This is a terrible mistake by the Dolphins to do this, to interrupt the continuity of your season. I realize that they had a bye, and maybe that was why he was like, oh, we'll make the switch and things will work, and because he got some playing time against the Jets. This is not the time. This is a bad move. And look, I mean, I'm saying all this, and if Tua comes in and he plays like Patrick Mahomes, then we're all wrong and fine. I don't think it's going to happen. I think you give the rookie time the whole year. Let him sit the whole year. Things are working. I mean, if this was in the dumpster, then you play him. But otherwise, this is a horrible mistake. When I read this, I was shocked. I was like, this just cannot be. But apparently, it's true.
Well, and I was thinking, maybe statistically, Fitzpatrick isn't playing well. He's sitting around the middle of the pack in every
Yeah.
statistical category. I mean, he's thrown for 10 touchdowns. He's thrown for 1,500 yards. He has a 70% completion percentage. I mean, the one thing that I think you'd like to see down, or two things, would be he's thrown 7 interceptions and he's been
Yeah.
sacked 10 times. So you might want to see that.
Right.
His QBR isn't great at 79.6. But if you look at ranking, where is he? I mean,
Yeah.
he's seventh in
Not.
QBR.
Yeah. That's
I,
great. I mean,
I mean, I think any team would want a quarterback that's seventh in QBR.
oh sure. Yeah, and you can't tell me that, yes, like I said, Fitzpatrick, he's got some interceptions, but you can't tell me that Tua's not going to come in and throw some picks, or take bad sacks. He's going to do those things. Yeah, I am very surprised by this move. I saw that and no. This
Well,
is not the move you make. I mean, he's not playing bad. He's playing good football. Leave him in there. Let him play.
and going into a stretch where you play the Rams and then the Cardinals, two very aggressive defensive teams.
Right.
You're playing Aaron Donald. this coming week. In your first NFL start, you have to line up against probably the most dominant defensive lineman in the game right now.
Yeah. Former defensive player, MVP. I mean, this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's having a great year.
Right. He's coming
So,
for you, Tua. I'm sorry to
it,
say, but it's just.
yeah, it's a rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand this move. It makes me question why would you do that? I really don't understand the reasons for it.
And I mean, we're not there every day, but
Right.
that does was kind of shocking when I heard it also. So I wanted to get your thoughts because as your team, my team, of course, the Raiders now they're having a bunch of COVID issues. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I look at this and if there's continuity and things working, we've both said this so many times throughout the course of our entire show. If you have a rookie and you have the luxury of having him sit on the bench and you can do that and you can be competitive, then you do it and you give that person the chance to learn, the chance to be prepared when they step out on the field. Um, there are teams like Cincinnati. They didn't have a choice. They got to go with Joe Burrow right away. There's a team like the Chargers who, yeah, it just really wasn't working with Tyrod Taylor. You put the rookie in, and obviously that's working. But Miami doesn't have to do that. They don't have to. They can let him sit. I am shocked by this move. I don't like it at all.
All right, well there you have it, everybody. Lone Wolf not happy with Coach Flores down in Miami. I personally would not. Um, would not have made the move. I've been on the air and I'm adamantly have said it. I don't like starting rookie quarterbacks. I don't care really what your situation is. You're gonna struggle. You're not gonna be very good anyways. Let them sit and learn. Don't put them out there and get injured because he takes a big hit from a Pro Bowler like Aaron Donald, especially when you're coming off of the hip.
Right. That's the other thing too. Yeah.
You take one bad hit on that hip, it could be 2 years before you see him again. So, but that's why they get paid the big bucks. They must see something that we don't. We'll wait. We'll have to wait and see.
Right.
So, all right, Lone Wolf. I think that wraps it up. Unless you have anything else to add.
No, I think it's good, and this gives us the time frame that we're looking for.
Yeah, a little over, but then it's a lot better than what would happen. We'll get this button down here in the next couple of weeks. Again, everybody, thank you for listening, whether it was live or if you listen to this recorded. Enjoy this coming week in the NFL. We are starting to heat up. We are almost halfway through the season already. We will start talking playoff seedings and everything as we move along here in the next couple of weeks, because believe it or not, once we hit Thanksgiving, it is basically the playoff push, and we will be priming everybody for that. So thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time.
All right. Have a good night.